Thank you. Normally I'm the most impressive Angus in the room at least, but probably not today. I'd say, to start off, that we should recognise, as has just been mentioned, that the ecological crisis that we face and the climate crisis that we face is the same as the social and economic crises that we face in society. This isn't a political system that's gone wrong, it's doing exactly what it intends to do, which is to serve the 1% corporations and profit above all else, as the more impressive Angus said earlier. It's serving fossil fuel executives who make millions in bonuses while their workers toil down mines for often quite bad pay, and they're polluting our air and tipping us over the climate cliff. And it's a system which, like I say, serves profit, which commits human rights abuses across the global south, and which fundamentally doesn't serve the interests of people or planet. That's the same system as the one that's making schools close early in this country because they don't have enough money. It's the same system as the schools that are asking parents to help pay their kids' lunches. It's the same system which is driving our NHS to the brink. And it's the same system which has inflicted crippling austerity across the country and caused 120,000 excess deaths in just 7 years. The climate crisis is not distinct from these crises, they're caused by one and the same thing. I'd say then there's been an upsurge of incredible activism over the last few weeks, from the climate strikes, of the youth climate strikes to Extinction Rebellion. The traditional response of environmentalists has not been so strong. Normally environmentalists are quite good at pointing to the cause of the problem, but they're not very good at then putting forward solutions. My comrade Claire Heimer wrote in an article not too long ago that shouting "no jobs on a dead planet" from the sidelines isn't good enough. And it really isn't, because what we've tended to have over the last few years is environmentalists criticising a labour movement which has been often very lacking, trade unions which have backed fracking, which have backed Heathrow expansion, but not really offering them much of a way forward. It's no wonder that trade unions, even though I'm up for a lot of organising within trade unions, as Abel and others have suggested, and that we need to get them on side, it's no wonder that they're protecting the jobs on store when this talk of a just transition is incredibly vague. I've been at events where people have talked about this green transition as Thatcherism 2.0, and unfortunately it's not good enough for us to say that, oh, we have good intentions. We need to put forward a programme on the plate, a jobs guarantee, and really a bright new future which people can get behind across the country. And in the meantime, we've had those two responses. All the while, we've got a state and a media which tell us that it's all our fault, which imply that we need to be austere with ourselves and our lifestyles, and it's the fault of the poor. We've got a President Macron imposing a fuel tax on the poor in France, and that's why you've got an uprising there. That's precisely what the fossil fuel industry, for example, want, which is to pit the working class against environmentalists, and we need to provide a vision which can do it. We need to rebel, not just against climate change, but against an economic system which serves none of our interests. That means a kind of radical proposal to reorient society. We need to declare a climate emergency, yes, but then we need to act, and we need a proper propositional programme. One that creates a more equal and prosperous society, and that really inspires people all over the country to get behind. That's what my movement, Labour for a Green New Deal, seeks to do. We don't seek to do it alone. We're inspired by the youth climate strike taking up that demand as well. And originally it was something, of course, that has been catapulted into the limelight by AOC and the Sunrise movement across the pond. This Green New Deal can really restructure the entire economy and produce a society that works for the many, not the few. That means a huge state-led decarbonisation programme, banning fracking and coal, yes, and taking action on the banks that fund climate change, as Momentum are campaigning to do now, and imposing a grand new sweeping investment in renewable infrastructure. In the course of that, it can create millions of good green unionised jobs and offer those plant by plant, job by job, factory by factory, so that people have those jobs at the end of their street and not in the abstract. It means investment in high-quality public transport across the country, so it's cheap, so it's accessible, so it's extensive, so that the whole of the UK is linked up and not just London. It means empowering workers and trade unions. There's been a lot of discussion about what trade unions can do, and I admire and support a call for a general strike, but it's not going to happen tomorrow, and I think we need to recognise that the feeling in this room is not the same as the feeling across the country. We need to be organising in trade unions, we need to be going to the trade unions as the youth strike are doing, and as Labour for Green New Deal will seek to do, designing a transition and empowering workers to design their own transition and see what it looks like. More broadly, our campaign will seek to, and we encourage others to do the same, to do deep organising across the country, seeing what a Green New Deal would look like in South Merdford Tydfil, or in Newcastle, or in wherever, and not just for the country as a whole. And finally, it means an internationalism. I don't think I need to go too much into detail about Britain's historic role. It's historically the second largest emitter, and is responsible for much fossil fuel infrastructure across the world. We need to be leading the way in supporting the Global South and in making up for our past and indeed present sins, reorienting our role within global climate negotiations. This could be a comprehensive programme which can inspire the country and which can get people behind it for a different kind of economy which works for the many, not the few, and which works for the planet as well. I'd encourage Labour members to get involved and everyone else to get involved as well.